What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic TV. It's time for live full-time reaction to Hibs 0, Celtic 0 at Easter Road. The season is finally over. I've got Kenny and Martin with me again. Martin, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We just mentioned it off here. If ever a game had an end-of-season feel, it was that game right there.
Absolutely. I didn't expect much from Hibs with their cup final coming next week. I wasn't even sure what type of team they would play. But no, it definitely had an end of season feel to it. It was a bit like a friendly, which is disappointing because, you know, for the captain and for a lot of the players who do want to hang about the club, it was an opportunity for them to go out and impress and, you know, finish the season with a victory after, you know, a reasonably good performance during the week. A little bit surprised with some of the players that started. I did think Forrest would be wanting another game under his belt. I think he's trying to get himself involved with the Scotland games coming up. I thought it was an opportunity for Dembele to feature, and I think we predicted during the week Montgomery might have got a chance as well. So I was a little bit surprised with some of the personnel that started the game. And we huffed and puffed, Paul. To be fair, you know, we had a lot of possession, and Hibs were blocking a lot of shots, and they've got a good goalkeeper, Marciano, as well. He's one that I think we maybe could and should have looked at a while back. We could have done one for this year. He's one of the better keepers in the league. But you're right, overall just a drab game, a sort of end of season friendly type game, and not an enjoyable watch at all, sadly.
Kenny, we talked during the week about a couple of young guys impressing, Montgomery at left back and Dembele coming on and making an impact in the game, and I was really disappointed with the starting lineup. I thought that there's a real staleness set in this season. We can all see it, and it just have been nice to see a wee bit of freshness, and even for Montgomery to keep his place, I think he done enough for that, but to see that starting lineup was strange.
Yeah, particularly Montgomery. I think I can only assume he's gone with sentiment instead of being sensible, in the respect that it's the last time Eddie, Christie, it's the last time they're going to pull on a jersey, and he's probably thought, you know, let's give them a final 90 minutes because they've been, this has been a tough campaign, but those guys pulled us through a quadruple treble, you know, probably one of the most successful eras of our history. So perhaps we should stop and take account of a little bit of sentiment. But I think that was I can only assume that was in his mind in his starting 11. I'd like to have seen Karamoko get more time. You know, okay, he could have went with his main men to give them a final outing, but he could have given Karamoko a half. I think Montgomery should have started because it's not Taylor's swan song. He'll be here next season, and it gives us another opportunity to explore him. So his team selection, I think, was pretty weak. But it's not just that. His input during the game is non-existent. It's absolutely awful in terms of trying to change the patterns of play to disrupt a malaise. He can't do it. And it surprises me a bit because I, in my mind, thought when Kennedy, he was nurtured under Brendan Rodgers, who was a tactical, you know, mastermind in that situation, the complete reverse. He could kill games that looked gone. And Kennedy, you would hope, would have learned from that. But he hasn't. You know, he has no idea tactically. So, yeah, I think, I don't want to be too disparaging to Kennedy because he's been a good Celtic man as well, but he's clearly not managerial calibre, and team selection and then change of team within the game, pretty poor.
Martin, as you say, Hibs preparing for the cup final next weekend. They made a lot of changes, playing without a recognised striker really. For us, anything of note that happened in that first half. El Yunus had a couple of great chances in opening 15-20 minutes, some good link up with Edward. But again, what we did create in the first half just had no end product.
Absolutely, and it's been the story of the season. I think even the first 10 minutes, we were in the ascendancy, and the match stats tell us, you know, possession-wise, not that means an awful lot, but 73% possession, and then we had a lot of shots. We had 16 shots, 10 on target, versus Hibs had zero on target. But you're right, just a lot of the shots getting blocked, a lot of them came to nothing. Maybe reasonably good build-up play, interlinked between one or two of the players, but just that's been the story of the season. And comparing some of the end of season stats, just at the end of the game, they're looking at, compare ourselves to last year. 30 games that we only played last year because of the way the season ended versus 38, and our goals this year we've only scored 70 versus 89 last year, so 19 goals less, having played eight more games. It's incredible. So that's been our Achilles heel, and we've talked on this show a number of times about the fact that we get a lot of shots, but we don't get a lot of shots on target. Our conversion is absolutely horrendous. Probably the worst I think we've ever had, certainly in my time. And 80 points last year versus 77, just not good enough. But we've not been clinical enough. There's been no fluency up front. There's been too much shots going wide and over the bar, Christie and others, and too predictable as well, cutting inside too often. And of course, if you're defending against that, you just flood the box, don't you? Because you know nobody's going out wide, so the defenders don't need to worry. They just compact the box, which is become too predictable this year. But sadly, that's been one of our big issues, is not scoring enough goals. Our conversion rate's horrendous.
Really similar patterns today again. As you say, Hibs defended well, but we didn't really have anything out wide again with Forrest not starting. I think you've maybe Christie on one side and El Younousi on the other, both like to come inside, and Hibs back to the middle of the pitch, and we couldn't really do an awful lot. Kenny, we did get the ball in the net. Odsonne Edouard smashes a free kick into the top corner, but Willie Collum thought it was time to pull it back for some reason. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, strange. I mean, almost everything this season, no matter how big or no matter how small, it just goes against us. You know, when he stood up and laced that into the top bin, you're thinking, finally, something to at least cheer about, and it's pulled back for an unknown reason. He's got that in his locker, Eddie. I remember in his first season, he kind of huffed and puffed a bit in his first season, Eddie, and then he sort of arrived with a hat-trick against Motherwell, one of which was a superb free kick, even better than that one he buried there. So he's more than capable of that. Fortunately, we've got Turnbull coming in to succeed him, I would suggest, in terms of dead balls in and around the area. So I feel a bit more confident that we will get a better goal return out of free kicks. But it was a peach. I mean, he rattled it right in, you know, and then, of course, Sod's Lloyd balloons it against the bar when the ball's actually in play. But it's got to be sad to see Eddie go. He's had a bad campaign, but he's been a brilliant servant over 4 years. You know, let's not forget his contributions over the previous 3. He's developed as a player. He came in here really raw, and you know, he goes out as a real someone who could really make his mark in the English Premier League, and I hope he does.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of players today that we've probably seen their last game for Celtic, Martin. I think 7, we know Scott Brown's gone. You'd like to think that was John Joe Kenny's last game for Celtic. Edouard, Kenny's just touched on. El Younousi's loan is up. Ayer, Christie, speculation around Dame and Barkas as well. That's 7 of the starting 11 today. Do you agree that all of them could likely be the last game for Celtic?
I think so. I mean, El Younousi, question mark. Firstly, would they want to stay, and if so, what's the price tag? But I think for the other 6, it's inevitable that they'll move on. I don't think Kenny's done enough, as you say. I think that there's no reason for us to offer him anything long term. So it's radical change, because you look at that bench today. It's not as if we've littered the bench with stars either. You know, had we chosen, you know, to give some of the youngsters a run out, then you might have looked at the bench and thought there was a lot on the bench, but you know, starter-wise, you've got Forrest on the bench, and that's it, I think. So other than Julian and one or two others who are guaranteed starters, it is literally start from scratch, which is it's a big ask, isn't it? It's going to cost us an absolute fortune. I know Kenny's been saying it from the start of the season and time again about, so a lot of these guys that are moving on, we're not going to get big money for them either. We've allowed their contracts to be run down, so yeah, it's going to be tough, and we need to get the recruitment started ASAP. And I know we've been talking amongst our group about looking at some of the Scottish talent that exists and seeing if we can tap into that market. You know, people who know the league and who are at the top of their game, regardless of what age they are. Some of the youngsters are starting in the league, so could we maybe try and do that, and that would be a good grounding for us, and then look to see what's out there elsewhere.
Yeah, a few rumours are starting this week actually, linking us with players based here in Scotland. We'll just need to wait and see with that one, but there's no doubt that a major overhaul is on the way. We've finished 25 points behind. I want to bring in this question for Jim Hunter, saying, guys, I'm glad the season is over. Followed the club since the 50s, and this was the worst football I've seen for a long time. On to the rebuild. Hail, hail. Kenny, where do you rank it in terms of poor seasons that you've seen? I mean, I think the poorest one that I've seen, certainly in my time as a season ticket holder, was the Tony Mowbray year, but I think we even managed a victory against Rangers that year. It's been so poor, this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, Barnes was just an absolute disaster as well. That's one that sticks in the memory, although that was killed. We sort of nipped that in the bud, sort of, and then actually we went on to win a trophy that season, so you couldn't even rank it as badly as that. And you're going back to the 90s where we had a number of terrible campaigns where we finished sort of, you know, 3rd and 4th, but that was a completely different era. We were, you know, we didn't have any money. We ourselves were facing potentially administration, and our opponents, you know, were throwing money around all over the place. So you can't. It's too difficult, I think, to compare those campaigns. Look, it's been the most painful of most Celtic supporting fans, you know, lives, I would suggest, given the build-up and given the completely unforeseen collapse. So, if you're asking me to be honest about, is that the worst season of my Celtic supporting life? Yes. Will it remain the worst? I think it probably will. And you know, I'm just, a small part of me is just glad that it's all over today. I mean, usually, you know, if you win you lose the league, usually later on in the campaign, after the split, you're in a title race. this title race has been finished since, we all probably felt in November it was over. So we've come for 6 months, we've felt this lethargy and challenge, and that's pretty unique. I've never felt that way before. And a fresh start next season is, all we can look forward to now. But in answer to your question, yeah, it has to be the worst.
Martin, I could ask you the same question in terms of ranking it, but I think it goes without saying that never has a season promised so much and delivered so little.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way of putting it, Paul, isn't it? Well, we're so excited about it and thought it was going to be a historic season, and it couldn't have gone much more wrong than it has. And it's been a culmination of things. I mean, don't want to spend too much time talking about Rangers, but you think about they were missing Morelos just as an example in the previous season with all these bookings, and how that impacted them was quite significant. Their goal scorer. But we've had 10 of those things this year. It's just been one thing after another. Started with Griffiths and the on the ball and goalie, and then some big injuries, Forrest and Julian and Eddie not being fit quite a number of times as well, and then COVID, Dubai, the Neil Lennon thing, should he stay, should he go? And then you add in all of that, the fact that Rangers had performed at a reasonably good level. And I talked about points per game during the week, and I know a couple of the guys that watch the show reacted to that. So just if you forget points per game and you look purely at the number of points that we took, so in 20 years we've had 38 games, because it was 36 prior to that, and of course prior to that it was 2 points a game as well. And just look at the number of points, because that tells a story on its own. So we finished with 77 this year, and only on 4 occasions during that 20 years have we been between 77 and 85. And the other 3 times we won the league was 2006, we won by 12 points. 2012, we won it by 16 points. In 2017, we won by 9. So we've done more than enough. Those points were sufficient, and we finished the season not having to do an awful lot, and dropping points as a result of that. So this season, by a country mile, the worst. And if you look beyond that, 86 to 89 points on 5 occasions and 90 plus on 11 occasions. How far are we away from those sort of points? It's absolutely incredible. So everything that could have went wrong. We didn't get the latter stages of the cups. Never mind winning a cup. We didn't get anywhere near winning a cup. We're knocked out in the early stages of both cups. And then in Europe, was it possibly our worst year in Europe? Our worst. Well, we broke lots of records, but for the wrong reason in the Europa, around goals conceded, etc., etc. So just horrendous from start to finish. Is it my worst ever season? I'm not sure. I've had some dark times during the 9 in a row. The best times were the fun we had on the bus, and you took yourself a lot in the game, but you knew the outcome was inevitable. But not thought too much it was my worst season, but I think you put it beautifully to say, when you compare expectations, because Kenny's pointed out we didn't have money and we knew at the start of the season we were going to be struggling, whereas this year I think we were all convinced that 10 was a shoo-in. Rangers were struggling. We didn't think Gerrard had it in him to win a league, and what I would say is, their celebrations are quite extreme. Fireworks have been getting set off every weekend for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think they're all going into City Centre to celebrate for hours on end today. Fair play to them. It's the first title their club's won. So their club, their manager, and for a lot of the players, it's their first title. Chat about 55 is obviously nonsense. So fair play to them. They can let their fireworks off. And who knows, that same club might be lucky enough to win a cup at some point in the future, because they've yet to do that. But a sore one for us. A sore one for us this year for sure. And we just need to hope they'll be back next year. And there's a lot of work to be done over the next 2 months to get us in a position to compete. But I'm confident they will turn a corner. As I say, we need the next 2 months to be really productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked a lot this season, Kenny, about the overhaul that was coming in terms of personnel. But again, today, the thing that screams out to you is that this is a Celtic team that really lacks an identity, and that needs a top coach to come in and rectify it.
Yeah, and the one thing that's given me hope, let's be positive. Let's pretend for a minute that Eddie Howe, is the man. Had we been going in with a Roy Keane or a Maresca or an Alex Neil, I'd be really worried. That given a mediocre or a risky calibre manager, to get them to sign 12 players and re-galvanise the entire side over the course of a few weeks, it would have been impossible. We would have almost had to be writing off next season already. I don't think we have to do that with Eddie Howe. I genuinely believe we're in really good hands. This guy is the real deal. I mean, he is, maybe if you discount Brendan Rodgers and Davy Moyes, is there another British manager out there who's better than him? I'm scratching my head. I don't know. And we've got him. And I think he'll bring back the professionalism that is missing. I think he'll bring that back immediately. The likes of Lee Griffiths, I think you probably wouldn't last 2 minutes around him unless he completely changes his attitude. He plays an attacking Celtic, traditionally Celtic style of football. He's hungry. He's obsessive about his work. He himself is a workaholic. He admits that, and he's obsessed with success. All of those qualities are exactly what we need. He's a perfect foil, I believe, for what we need. And I think we're in good hands with him. In terms of the rebuild, there's a number of ways that we need to be careful. I think we've got the misbalance of loan signings wrong recently. Look at the way our loan signings are going out this season. Kenny, Laxalt, you can go back to people like Jeremy Tolya, and they're not invested in the club. I'm not totally against loan signings because they can work, but the amount has been imbalanced. I think we're going to have to bring in some Scottish. I don't think we can go and bring 12, 13 players from foreign shores. That's killed us this year. There needs to be a balance of quality from abroad, but also a core Scottish strength. I think the links with Nisbet and the left backs playing out for in Italy at the moment, Scottish guy. I think they're sensible. I think we need a blend of Higgins. I think we need to get a blend of Scottish talent in there, as well as looking at and being sensible around Bosmans as well. We're not going to have a lot of money to throw around, but we're going to have a lot of payroll freed up. The likes of Josh King on a free, that makes sense. Get something like that in on a free, real quality that you can be attracted to Celtic as a club and an institution, but we can perhaps pay their transfer fees. Look at the Bosman market. So, but all of that strategy, hopefully if it is Eddie Howe, he's so obsessive about success, I believe he'll be thinking about all of that, and all of that will already be underway. It has to be. And if it is him, he will definitely be doing it. So do I feel sore now? Yes. Do I feel really positive about the future if he gets announced? Absolutely, I do. Because I think we've pulled something out of nowhere, really, in terms of getting him, because I don't think there's anyone else available like that. So I'm excited for next season.
Yeah, the player recruitment is such a big area that we need to improve in as well. And I hope that if we do get Eddie Howe, then that can be addressed properly as well, because we drastically need it. We talked earlier in the season about our last 7 or 8 transfer windows, Kenny, and there's so many failures in there. So the player recruitment is a massive part that we need to improve. Martin, we are all confident that Eddie Howe is going to be announced, hopefully, in the next few days. But it goes without saying, and we've talked about its impact on season ticket renewals, but everybody just needs a lift. We just need something to galvanise us and to give us something to unite behind for next season. Yeah,
and I like what Kenny's saying there, and I hope he's right that, fingers crossed Howe's made up his mind, the board have made up their mind, and that, it's just some technicality. It might be a timing thing based on contractual obligations, etc. But if Kenny's right, hopefully he is. Are we identifying players and talking to players, etc., and doing what he can in the background about. And maybe he'll turn up at Celtic Park next week with a new squad, a bus full of players, and we'll be good to go. But let's hope that is going on in the background, and it's not that we're standing still or we don't have somebody identified, or that he's said no, because that's what we desperately need. And I'm talking about 2 months, but we'll be back playing football in early July, which, what is that, 6 weeks away if you're lucky. Really wants to get in and see the players in pre-season, so. We need it announced. Many times have we said that? We need it announced. We need it announced imminently. And possibly it was, let's get the last game of the season played, which is today. Don't know exactly where clubs are in England with regards to finishing their games, but they're not far away. So fingers crossed it's imminent. Fingers crossed he comes in. He's done a lot of the prep work, as Kenny says. You talk about your day one, but hopefully he's done his day zero, and he's already got a lot of players who he's had some dialogue with, and he's going to bring them. He'll certainly have forged a lot of relationships over the years with players, and he'll know the market relatively well. So here's hoping, Paul, for a big announcement this week.
Aye, hopefully a lot of talk again about Bournemouth and whether there's maybe a delay because some of the staff there he would like to bring up, and they're still playing. They've got the playoffs to come against Brentford, I think. So the sooner that's concluded, the better. That will do us for today. It's the final live full-time reaction of the season. So thank you to all of you watching for your support during this very difficult campaign. Like the video, comment with your own thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.